Hell yeah. What's up, everyone? Donnie, drug addict, alcoholic, recovering addict. Um, I've been sober for a little over 2.5 years now. I got a sponsor. I work the steps. I work the 12 steps of AA. That's where my foundation is. But obviously, I didn't just struggle with alcohol. It was everything. It was more of anything and everything that I can get my hands on. Uh, you know, a little backstory, I'm from Ohio. I started at a young age. I was introduced to drugs and drinking by family, friends that, I probably shouldn't have been exposed to, but that's just what happened. And it was the party lifestyle. My parents, they partied really hard and all their friends did. So when I grew up seeing all that, it was like I was looking up to these people that were like larger than life. And I was almost captivated by that, and they would tell me not to do these things that they were doing, but I'm watching it happen, so therefore I'm gonna do the stuff, whatever it was. It was they were bikers. They were having parties for 3 days long, and I'm like a little kid, I'm watching fucking chicken fights going on and like all this crazy shit, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But I touch on a lot of the childhood stuff because that's where I think a lot of the trauma and exposure to things that weren't normal came about, and that kind of led me into my addiction more and more. And I believe the disease of addiction does center in the mind. That's exactly where it is. Whether we were born into some environment that we were exposed to things, or whether we weren't, it's still we have an addict mindset, or I do at least. And so growing up, it was weird, man, like being around all that stuff. And I had an older sister, and she was older. Her friends were older than her by like 3 or 4 years. So I'm 12 years old, hanging out with people that are, high school or graduated, and they're smoking weed. I'm getting high with them, and next thing I know, I'm doing cocaine by the time I'm in sixth grade. And then I started growing weed, and I was around family businesses too. So I kind of knew. My first job, I was 12, so I kind of knew that I had to work to maintain or to provide for myself, because that was just what was ingrained in me. Like, I work hard and I play harder. That's just what the mindset that I was raised around, from my dad, my uncles, my grandfather, all that. They had all businesses, and they were, let's say they weren't the most successful businesses, but they were, and it was a lot of it due to the chaos of addiction and all that lifestyle that goes along with it. And but anyways, I started growing weed, right? And I thought that helped me maintain my addiction. And then I thought I was someone. I thought, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm selling weed at 15 years old. I got all my friends over at my house trimming all my plants for me, all my friends from high school. And I thought I thought I was someone. And my dad gets prescribed pain pills. I start those. I start doing it with my sister, and it progresses, man. Like, I'm selling them, I'm eating them, and I find out that it's quick money. I was started getting more addicted to the fast paced, easy money lifestyle. And my house was the party house. I would have a couple hundred people at my house on the weekends. Like huge parties, multiple kegs. And I got my first DUI when I was 18. Before that, I had some charges as a kid, but it was I'm from a small town. And I knew a lot of people, so I kept getting away with things over and over. And I think that's what kept me in my addiction for so long, is I had no consequences. Like, I did all this stuff, and I was cool. Like, it just was like slap on the wrist. Here you go. And so I just kept going deeper and deeper. And I'm not gonna. It was fun. Like, I had some fun partying at certain times, and then it was fun with problems, and then it was just straight problems towards the end. And so that fun, the brief moments of fun that I did have, like, early on, it kept tricking me into thinking that I was having a good time. And the society, or just as a whole, or the people I was associated with, they all partied. I did not know anyone that was sober, or ever sober, or in recovery the whole thing that a lot of people would say is, um, AA's for quitters and stuff like that. Like party, work hard, party harder, and that was the life I lived for growing up and selling the drugs. And so I was selling a lot of pain pills from doctors, and when the DEA cracked down, right, all these doctors got cut off, and the whole country got flooded with heroin, fentanyl, and my parents' drug addiction destroyed my family, and the certain drugs that they did destroyed our lives and our family or whatever. And so I said I wasn't going to do those drugs. I wasn't going to smoke crack, and I wasn't going to go down this path, right? Because I looked at people that did heroin and crack like they were less than, or they were like the worst of the worst, especially people that shot up. And I was like totally against that for the longest time. But the disease of addiction, the progression of it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't care. And so like I said, all the doctors got cut off. My pain pill supply got cut off. My friends closest to me, some family that I used to sell all these to, they switched over to doing heroin and fentanyl. And there's those pivotal moments in my addiction that opened up that next level that I didn't know was there. Those are, there are a couple of them. I'll touch on a couple of them, but it was so I got this job right when I was 21, and I was traveling the country. And at this time, my addiction's really like ramping up. I had a bad relationship. I had a really good relationship that I drove to the ground. I had a bunch of emotional pain, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate with. It's like, fuck her, it was her fault, all this, and I drank and I used to cover up shit, to cover up feelings, to cover up emotions, all that. And so after that relationship, I was about 21. I got this job. I'm traveling the country, building these commercial buildings, and I'm in a different city, different state every week or every couple weeks, every month. And wherever I went, it didn't matter. Like I found the drugs wherever, because my addiction called me, and I literally had to answer. Like I would find the most dangerous spot in whatever city I was at. I would go there, and I would just start just talking to people like, yo, what's up? Like, let me, you got something. And I put myself in some really fucked up situations. I got robbed sometimes. I robbed some people. Like it was just chaos, and that's when but that job also, I was making really good money, and it kept me going again, because like I was providing. I had the car and I had the house. Had a lot of responsibilities at a young age, and it kept me going and going. And somehow I kept that job for a lot of years. I would work half the year, make enough money, and I would go home and party. I would go back to Ohio and party for the other fucking half the year, and blow all my money. And continue to sell drugs. But so my cousin, like all my friends and stuff, they moved on to the heroin. And so it's getting to the point where I was a social person before, right? But my addiction started turning me into this person that was completely isolated away from everyone in the world. And I got sick. I got dope sick for the first time because all my drugs ran out, and I said I wouldn't do heroin. I didn't have the money to pay for it. And I got sick, and my one friend was like, yeah, dude, like you're dope sick, man. And I'm like, man, this is the worst feeling I ever felt. And he was like, here's a Suboxone, and I did a Suboxone for the first time. And I was that it got me high, dude. Like I got fucked up on it. So the next time I hang out with one of my close friends or relatives, and they're like, hey, this is some powdered methadone, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'll do that. And I do it, and it's fentanyl, and I overdose the first time I do it. And so, hey Willie, I can't hear you, man.
I'm muted.
Oh, all right, I thought you were talking. My bad.
I'm
So
tripping.
hell yeah, so my bad. So I overdosed the first time, and I wake up And I'm like, coach, I'm like, damn, like, let me get some more of that. Like, what, whatever that was. I know it wasn't methadone, but I'm down, and that opens up that next door. And next thing I know, I'm doing cocaine, and I say I'll never, smoke crack because I watched that drug destroy people. Next thing I know, I'm doing that. Next thing I know, I talk about the law of association. People used to joke with me, and they'd be like, "Yo, you need to pick better friends." Like some of my family members would be like, "You need to pick better friends." They kept telling me that over and over, and I was like, I didn't fucking understand what they were saying because I was so caught up in it. I thought like they were all good people, And this one dude gives me meth for the first time. He tells me it's cocaine, and I'll never forget those pivotal moments when I tried that drug because it unleashed that next animal inside of me, and it just boom, like set off the addiction even more. And so like I get some charges, or I get caught with some drugs. I fall asleep in my car. The cops, and this is like one of my first times that I really had some serious charges against me. I have a bunch of drugs on my lap that I'm literally going to sell, but I fell asleep. I fell out before I even made the transaction. And so I have a bunch of charges against me, felonies, and they're like, go to treatment and get sober, do this, and this, and you're probably going to get the charges dropped from felonies to misdemeanors. And I'm like, okay, like I don't want no felonies on my record, so I'm going to listen to these people. And this was my first introduction to sobriety, recovery, detox, rehab, any of that. Because like I said, my normal was party hard. So I go into this treatment center, I detox, and this is the first time I've ever detoxed off of all the drugs that I've been doing since I was 12 years old. So now I am 25. So this is like a 13-year run or so of me like never being any somewhat sober. So I don't even know who I am. I literally sleep the whole time in detox, like not sleep, but just in the bed, like dying. I couldn't even get out of the bed for the detox. And then I go to the residential after that because that's what they suggested I do. I go to the residential. It's in the hood, like the house that we stayed in. There was trap houses on both sides. They're throwing drugs over the fence to everyone in the rehab, and this kid overdoses in there. Like this was not the best place to get sober, but I did. I stayed sober because I had those consequences on my back, and that was always in my mind. I was like, I don't want to go to prison. I like my freedom too much to do that. And that was the first experience that I had with like a camaraderie or a fellowship with other people, and the first time that I learned anything about addiction and how my mind was set up, like why I was doing the things I was doing. And it was like light bulbs going off, like one after another, and I start reading, I actually start listening, but deep down I'm just like, I just need to get rid of the drugs. I'm not an alcoholic. Like I was never an alcoholic, even though I had multiple DUIs already and plenty of blackouts, all that. I just thought I needed to get rid of the heroin and the crack and I'd be good. So I'm in that treatment center. I'm learning a lot of stuff, but I still haven't surrendered at all, like to the fact that I'm an addict. I wouldn't even say that I was an addict or an alcoholic. I just was there, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I can relate. Yeah, I did that, I did this, I did that, but I'm not an addict. I'm not an alcoholic. I can control my consumption. I just need a break from it. So a guy comes in, he does H&I. And this was the first time I heard like a grown man literally talk about how fucked up he was, and got emotional in front of a crowd of 50 or 60 people. And I was just like, this was unreal to me. I've never seen this happen before because the people I grew up around they were hardcore. Like they were like, handle your shit, don't be a bitch, don't cry, don't show emotion, like fucking man up. So that I kept this facade on for the longest time. Like I had this mask on, like I had to be some hard ass, but deep down inside, I was just falling apart every day. Like I was just dying inside. When I hear this guy speak at the rehab, I'm like, damn, dude. Like it was one of those spiritual experiences or spiritual moments in your life of like an awakening, and I experienced that. I went up to the guy, I said, hey, And I want to thank you for sharing all that. You know, I thought I was the only one. Right? You know, I thought I was unique. And so we hit it off. We started talking, and like I gave him my number and I told him I was getting out. So I stayed sober that whole time, 45 days altogether with 30-day residential detox. I get out. This guy, I don't have a car, I don't have a license because I destroyed all that. I gave it all away. He comes and picks me up every day, takes me to meetings. One thing he did for me, he said, I want you to go up and introduce yourself to all these people at this meeting. And these are like big meetings, 100 people. Like they're big, you know, and I don't even know who I am as a person. I'm filled with fear, anxiety. I'm nervous as fuck. I'm sweating. I'm still withdrawal. I'm still like not physically okay. Even after 30, 40 days, I'm still like sketchy. I'm like, you know, I'm like the stray dog out on the street that's like scared of every little thing. But I introduced myself to all these people, and they're all laughing, having a good time, and I'm like, what the fuck are these people so happy about? You know? I was like, but it attracted me, right? Because of attraction rather than promotion. I was attracted to that because I wasn't used to that. I never seen it. And I stayed sober for about 4.5, 5 months, something like that. Going to meetings every day. I wasn't working the steps. I was like, you can keep your steps. I don't know. I don't need that shit. And uh I did have some spiritual moments, spiritual awakenings during that time though. And life started getting good. I started feeling good. I was working out for the first time ever in my life. And physically, I felt good. I gained shit. I was 125 pounds soaking wet. I gained like 40 pounds or so, 45 pounds. And everyone's like, oh, you look so good. You're doing good. You're doing good. This, that. Well, that fucked me up because I thought I was something and I thought I was doing something right. Got to my head. And cunning, baffling, and powerful. I'm bowling with friends and family. And I'm like, I could have a drink, you know? One drink, but that ain't gonna hurt. I'm not an alcoholic. The drugs were the problem. Double Jack and Coke, boom, and off to the races. And when I talk about the obsession getting kicked on, I won't forget that because it was so powerful that I had no control over it. And I thought that was it. One drink, next thing I know, I'm cocaine. Back to the drugs. It's the same shit, you know. And I run on a run for about a year with that time. And in that year, a lot of things happened. You know, friends started dying left and right. Two of my best friends, the one that got me working out, another one that I grew up with, both of them I grew up with. And the power of the addiction, right? And they're both in their 20s. We're like 25, 26, 27. I go to their funerals, and they're family friends. So like the whole community, this is like a small town. So everyone's there, and I'm just like, everyone's crying, and they're like, yo, never do this to us. And I'm like, yeah, I would never do this to you. Like, I don't even get high anymore. Like, I'm sober. You know, I'm lying to them because I walk in the bathroom and I'm getting high in the funeral home as my best friends are laying in a casket dead. And I thought I had everyone fooled, especially myself. You know, I was just lying to myself, honestly. Uh, Overdose. I leave their funeral. I overdose not too long after. One thing after another, car accidents, the chaos, the insanity of the addiction. I wreck my truck into another truck, and because I fell out at the wheel. So I this accident happens, and I look, you know, and I try to run my first thing, but my whole truck is destroyed. And I see in the rearview mirror a truck flipped over in the woods, smoke pouring out of it, and I'm like, oh fuck, like I did it this time. I jumped out of the truck. I had my crack pipe, all my pills in like a container. I throw all that off into the woods, and I run to this truck to see like if these people are okay. And by this time, the bystanders are all coming out, like, you know, and we look into the truck, and there's a guy driving, and then there's three little kids like in their car seats in the back, you know, crying upside down. And so we all start, you know, we pull the guy out, we get the kids out, all this stuff. Thank God everyone was okay. But you think that would have woke me up, but no. And I didn't get a DUI. Like, I lied, I manipulated, I knew people, I got out of it. I just got some, you know, slaps on the wrist. You think something like that would wake me up, and it didn't. I keep going. My family at this point, they're like, I'm done. They're cutting me off. And I'm like, okay. Like, so I go back to treatment again. Same thing. Stay sober for 4 or 5 months. I come out to Arizona because my grandparents are like, hey, change of pace, change of environment. Here you go. I'm like, cool. Come out here. A friend of mine from Ohio lives here. I drink a Bud Light Lime, back off to the races again. You know, that obsession is so powerful. When they say one, it's done, dude. And that's like the powerlessness for me is I don't know what happens. If I pick up one drink, I can say I might die. I can say I might end up in prison. I could say I might end up back in treatment, or I might go on for the next 10 years destroying everything in my path. Or I don't know what happens. Like that's the fucking thing with it. It's like I'm gambling with my life if I pick up one drink. And I don't want to gamble that anymore because I seriously don't know what's going to happen. And I realized that it wasn't like strangers weren't always in danger around me. It was more of the people that I loved the most that were like they were in danger. If I was around and I was getting high, watch the fuck out because I'm going to like do whatever it takes. So I go on another run and it gets to the point where I can't go on living like this anymore. This is like an 8-month run, and everything is gone. You know, all my friends, all that shit. All right, all my friends are gone. Everything. I'm losing the house, the car. It's such a dark moment. I end up, I have a needle in my arm this time. I'm like, how the fuck did I get here? A moment of clarity. How did I get to this point? My only way out, I was going to kill myself. I had my gun. I was ready to just to end it because I would do drugs hoping I didn't wake up. But I woke up every time. So this is the first time I genuinely reached out and asked for help. And I said, hey, I'm fucked up. I need help or I'm going to kill myself. And people were there for me. And thank God these treatment centers, right? This counselor, I go in, this is my third time. And he's like, look around, man. Everyone's dying around you, all your friends, all your family, all this stuff's happening. Wake up, dude. Like you have all this potential and you're fucking wasting it. It's like it was basically like him smacking me in the face without him smacking me in the face. So I go through that treatment center and I make a decision, dude. In that treatment center, I was like, I am done with this life. And I like every ounce, everything in me, I was like, I'm done. I can't go on living like this anymore. So that was the day I decided to like actually take the program serious. I got out, I came out to Arizona again, walked into the rooms, and I took that same tool that guy, that first sponsor I ever had, gave me. I went up to a bunch of strangers that I'd never met in my life. I said, hey, I'm Donnie. I'm new. I got 45, 50 days sober. I'm fucked up. Like, what do I do? Like, I just need some help, But that vulnerability and that honesty with those strangers opened up the doors for me in my recovery. And now I have relationships with those same people over 2.5 years later. And some of the best friends I've ever had in my life. Like my life has completely changed from recovery. And that's when, and the true miracles happened when I surrendered to someone else's way. And I said, okay, I'll try your steps because obviously the past 2 times didn't work for me. So I'm going to do these steps. And thank God my first mentor, first sponsor that I got, he's 85, 30 years of sobriety. And this guy beat step 1 into my mind and made me read it over and over until I internalized it so much. And that's part of my daily practice is step 1, 2, and 3 every day. And then the real stuff started happening after 4 and 5. Someone explained to me because I'm slacking on this. I'm a procrastinator, right? One of my character defects. I'm in the road to doing the same thing I did before. And some guy said, hey, he said, I never seen anyone die from doing a 4-step, but I've seen a lot of people die from not doing a 4-step. And that shit hit me hard. And I was like, damn, all right. So that opened my mind up and I did it. And I was overthinking it the whole time. But once I did that, the release from all that trauma, all the fears, all that baggage that I was carrying for so long was finally lifting from me. And I was seeing the patterns of over and over and over that I was living in. And to see a pattern or to change something, I must see it first before I can actually change it. And I did that. And I kept going to meetings every day, meeting after meeting. And I changed the law of association. I changed my environment. I changed my thoughts, I changed my circle of people, and my life completely changed, literally one day at a time. I could go into a lot, like the brothers that I've met in the program, they got my back. No matter what happens, they have my back and they don't expect anything in return. I never had that before. And that is one of the crucial parts of this, is the connection with other people in the program. So this is possible for anyone, man. Like, if you get out of treatment or you're in treatment, like, it's a miracle that you made it into treatment, first of all, because not so many people are lucky enough to even make it into the seat that we got. We paid a lot of shit, a lot of relationships, a lot of stuff to get into that seat. We fucking earned it for sure, but a lot of people don't. I've lost a lot of people in my recovery as well. So don't take it for granted. That's what they told me. Don't take this opportunity that you've been blessed with at a second chance at life. Don't waste it. And I live by that every day. I'm like, okay, I've been blessed with this opportunity. I'm going to utilize it. What am I going to do with it? And I can promise you, gratitude, the practice of gratitude will get you through the beginning of your recovery, the hard parts of your recovery. When I focus on all the good things and the small little things, just my health alone is something to be grateful for. And that will pull me out of any funk, any depression, any anxiety, when I focus on the little things that I have right in front of me. And I want to share this one experience that I had, and I'll wrap it up, because this was a whole perspective shift on gratitude for me and how lucky I was. I started a business in my recovery, and I go about 7 months sober. I go to a nursing home facility to help this guy try to get out of there into a home, right? And I go up the elevator to go do this consultation with this guy. I get to the top, I get out, and there's a kid there in a wheelchair, completely paralyzed from his neck down. And I'm like, he's like, hey man, will you hit that button? I need to go down. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I got you, bro. Like, I hit because he couldn't do anything. All he could do was talk. So I hit this button. I'm standing there with him, and I'm like, hey man, you don't mind me asking, how'd you get here? And he was like, I was fucking drunk, and I went cliff diving with my friends, and I jumped and I broke my neck. And he was 21 years old. And I was like, holy shit. You know how many times I was drunk and did cliff jumping or car accidents, and this kid does this one thing one time and he's paralyzed for the rest of his life, stuck like that. And I was like, holy shit. He's in that position for the rest of his life and he can't change it. But me, and then I look at my situation, I'm like, damn, I'm fucking blessed. And I do have the option or the choice to go do something now. And that was like a huge perspective shift for me, is like how blessed we are just to have our health. And anyways, I'll go on and on about gratitude, and the program works if you work it. That's all I gotta say.
How do we find you, Donnie?
So yeah, me and my boys, we have a podcast, Not So Anonymous, Not So Anonymous podcast, Instagram. We have, we have I don't know, about 50 episodes now. Come listen to it. We talk about war stories, comedy, and we carry the message. A lot of solid recovery in there, and how we live through life, in recovery. And my personal page is the real Donnys. Hit me up, message me, any of that. I'm always open, man. Always open to talk to anyone.